Time.
I got to remember to mute it as soon as it pops up.
That's what she said. Time.
What's up, Dark Judges, Desperados, and dudes in dick-shaped helmets? You're listening to Cursed Earth Radio, the one and only podcast bringing dread to the dreadless.
Broadcasting outside the walls of Mega City 1 across the Black Atlantic in North America. I'm Cool Johnny Cool.
And it's Heavy Metal Kid, and we're back with the only live North American Judge Dredd and 2000 AD related podcast where you yourself can be a part of the action by jumping in the chat here. Oh, hell, it's only 4 a.m. in the UK. Wake up and join us as we talk about all these following exciting things that Johnny's going to tell you about right now.
You didn't read, did you?
Yeah, of course.
It's full of shit. We're doing Prog 2270. It's the 45th birthday of 2000 AD.
Oh my God, and my phone is ringing. Sorry. Don't worry about it.
We have part 1 of Judge Dredd, the Citadel, and when John Wagner comes back to Dredd, I get scared because giant life-altering events happen, and I get panicky. I get a little panicky. And according to my co-host, we have Produce Vax, Desire Paths coming up next. Indigo Prime, which was thoroughly confusing because I've never read Indigo Prime. Kingmaker came back, and I had to remember where we were the last time Falls the Shadow showed up. Tharg records a ditty for the 45th anniversary of our beloved 2000 AD. Tiny Paul Bunyan goes to side Ben Franklin and Squids. And Brink's back.
Brink is back, yes. And man, we got extra shit this week, Johnny. And Chelsea's back in the chat, which means there's actually one person listening to the show this week. That's exciting.
We've already gone over this. It's the same show whether anybody's listening or not. It's the same show that's been happening forever.
Same level of quality, audience or no audience, here we are. So this week cover looks like a Brian Bolland cover. You know why?
Why?
It's a Brian Bolland cover.
I love Brian Bolland. And I love the fact that we've hit this point now where you can see Bolland's influences on the artists that have come after him. I love seeing him show back up, but it's not him. It's somebody who he is influenced, and it's so cool to see that now.
But this is literally Brian Bolland.
I know that. I get that, but I'm saying we also get to see him by proxy through all the artists he's influenced. You know, when I was a kid, before I got into Dredd, my gateway drug into comic books was Batman. And I vividly remember the first time I read Killing Joke. And I remember the art being amazing. And it wasn't probably for 4 more years until I went, hey, wait a minute. That's this guy. Wait, this guy drew Batman and Judge Dredd? How is that possible?
You know how I discovered the Killing Joke and Brian Bolland?
How?
Anthrax. Again. So
well, there you go.
Discovered Dredd through Anthrax. And Crazy Dingo's in the chat. What's up?
I can't see the chat on this side.
Oh man, it's lighting up with thousands of people right now.
I just assume you're always lying to me.
So none of these people are real. Obviously Anthrax was our gateway drug into realizing that wow, Dredd is something worth reading because Scott Ian's talking about it. But or Joey Belladonna singing about it, although we realized later he has no clue who the fuck Judge Dredd is. He just sings the words that are written out for him. But hey, he's still the greatest singer of all time. But I had an Anthrax VHS tape, and there's some backstage footage, and here's Scott Ian standing there with the Killing Joke, and he's saying this is the most important Joker comic of all time, and he's like really putting this comic up on a pedestal. And I always remember, obviously the cover is pretty incredible. And so I always remembered that. And then I saw it at some point for sale. And I was like, that's that Scott Ian comic, that the Joker comic. You know, my entry into Batman was real weird because I almost when I was buying comics as a kid, I wasn't really buying Batman comics. I was buying all the shitty team books that were being marketed with foil covers, which is great, by the way. But my Batman stuff came later, and it was just like, I really kind of went in without the help of recommendations of the internet, just started buying everything. And so I kind of, when I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, that's that Anthrax one. Didn't know the huge legacy or the fucking reputation it had. And yeah, Brian Bolland for most people is that guy. For us, he's the fucking Judge Dredd guy. And he's weird. He occupies for me the same spot as like Carlos, where it's like, if I'm listing out the artists that I would say are like my favorite artists, I may not even put those guys in it. It's weird, but
really,
I also recognize that they're super important and they're synonymous with Dredd. So you know what I mean? It's a strange thing for me when it comes to favorite Dredd artists, because it's not always the super heavy hitter guys. I've got some, it's just one of those things where like, I know these are the archetypes. Like I said, when I got my Dredd tattoo, I had to get Carlos art because it's linked to Necropolis and all that stuff. But Ballin's the same way, where I'm like, oh man, he's great. But I don't know that he makes my top 5, which is weird. I know, but
he's definitely in my top 10. I mean, Cam Kennedy's in there, and Carlos, obviously, Jake. But yeah, I don't know if he'd be in my top 5. I mean, he's definitely in my top 10.
There's an episode a while back where a long while back where we actually did our top 10.
Yeah, I wonder how much mine's changed since then. I want to contradict myself.
Yeah, I'd like to know. I'm interested in going back myself. I know on mine, like I felt like it was going to be controversial because at the time I think we both put Ulysses Fairness in there, and I still stand by that. I'm just so in love with his artwork, and the fact that it's not UK 2000 AD Dredd, I'm sure gets a lot of hate from people, but just on a level of detail and stuff, I love it. And it's the kind of the same stuff that I love about a lot of artists, where I like guys that have a real super distinctive style. I mean, obviously Carlos has a super distinctive style. But that's not, I don't feel like it's often copied as much as Brian Bolland's style. And maybe that's the thing. A lot of people kind of do Bolland.
Yeah, Brian's is apes all the time. There's so many, and I guarantee now I would contradict myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we should go back. We should go back and have a look and commentary on our artists. I know for sure that if I didn't have him up on my list, here's another one of the ones where maybe people would say it's absurd, but I always thought that Lee Sullivan did a great job drawing. He was like the B guy on the Pit, and I really, really love and appreciate his artwork. And it's not this crazy like deviation, but it was like just a good looking Dredd. I like the way he draws the helmet, like the way that he kind of like, he can do Carlos-y kind of stuff. But I don't know, I always thought he was a great artist, and he hasn't been back in 2000 AD for a while, and I just felt like that was somebody I wish I could have seen more of. And maybe it's because I love the Pit so much, but I like his stuff.
It's one of our cornerstone stories for the podcast.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, certainly is, man. And then I know also, if I'm remembering right on my list, I definitely had Brendan McCarthy. I know we both had Jake, Brendan McCarthy, because the Jetta, and that was it. That sealed the deal, man. His fucking crazy, as you put it, his psychotic Easter eggs.
I mean, I got Jock on my list. He's in my top 10, and I know Jock's chins are a bit much for you.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. It's so weird, man. Cause like I know obviously I'm not shitting on Jock at all, but like, it was never the style. I never went for that style with, I don't know.
There's something about it. I think it's the way he layers texture in on top of his inks is what I really, and it's a lot like Henry Flint and Jake Lynch, where it feels kinetic. Like you can feel the energy in the drawing. It feels like it's moving.
I think for me, when Jock is doing Dredd, I think, and this is where it comes down to, I like a spindly Dredd, and Jock does a chunky Dredd.
You like your Henry Flint, Clint Eastwood, bones in a garbage bag Dredd.
Yeah,
The suits
I,
get so tight, he looks like bones in a garbage bag.
yeah, and I feel like there's a level of again, those team books, and when I say team books, of course, we're talking about all the fucking
Brigade and Young Blood and Blood
yeah,
Strike, and Strikey Bloods and Blood.
yeah, the guys with the pouches. Those I love that stuff, but there's a level of that I had enough of, and I'm not comparing Jock to that, but I'm also comparing Jock to that. There was a level of that in back in the day that like it was like I had enough of the big chunky dudes. So for me, what set Dredd apart is kind of that, and it goes all the way to like Cam Kennedy, who makes Dredd look just the most spindly and the most like just old man, old gold prospector kind of vibe. And I like my Dredd looking like that. I don't want Dredd to be in the gym. He doesn't have time, man. He's out on his bike. He's barely eating, he's that guy.
I got you. But I've always been drawn to guys with a distinct style, like Jock. He's big and chunky. He's kind of like the Frank Miller Dark Knight Returns Batman when Jock draws it. But like I said, Jake and Flint and Brendan McCarthy, especially, super expressive, not always anatomically correct, but it's got motion, it's got energy,
Yeah.
I love that
and
stuff.
I'll tell you, I got to say this too, as I'm looking at this cover, I think we really got to sort of like take just a quick break and acknowledge the fact that they're doing the big names of 2000 AD. But if you look over here, man, Noam Chomsky got on the cover.
He sure did, and he looks terrified.
He's like, what am I doing here? It's all the A names up here, the old school guys that Brian Bolland knows, but he put Chomsky up there, which was pretty cool. So I feel like that means Chomsky's leveled up.
It shows that our podcast has some pull. I'm just saying. It's not us, but it is the 45th birthday of 2000 AD, but they couldn't have got there without us. You're welcome. We did our job. You're welcome. This is all thanks to us.
Yeah. Yes, we did this. Hey, I also wanted to tell you, Johnny, I wrote on behalf of the two of us. You'll be happy to know I got off my ass and I wrote Tharg a letter for the two of us. I know we've been talking about. I
can't believe you boxed me out of this, you son of a bitch.
Well, no, I wrote it from me about us to him. And I knew, here's what I know. I knew if we sat down to do this together, it was never going to happen because this is just how we roll. So I was like, I'm going to write this letter from Heavy and Johnny to Tharg. And I didn't even mention our podcast because I'm not trying to whore us out like that. I feel like he already knows. I feel like it's below us to even mention, oh, hey, we're those guys. He knows who we are, clearly. Although, how in touch is Tharg? Let's be honest. How in touch with modern things is Tharg if he still thinks that these turntables are cool? He's out here. Somebody in the 2080 office was like, what are them kids into these days? What are the kids? They like them turntables and those hips and hops. That's what was going on out there in the 2080 office. And I know 2080 is not run by a bunch of old people, but I did think it was kind of funny that he's up here spinning the turntables,
I will, before we go on, we got some Judge Dredd news this week before we get into this. I know we're late, but it's our podcast, so we're going to be later. Deal with it. I know you and I were talking about this weekend how we've got certain places from where we started. And I honestly, I'm going to break kayfabe here for a minute. I do want to thank each and every person that's ever listened to the podcast, is listening now, continues to listen, because honestly, when we started this, we had no idea if anybody would listen. This was just us recording the same conversations we've had at Sheets at 4 a.m. after a show, or been in the van and done this. It's just, if there's no audience, it would have been the same podcast. We've just been documenting it. So when our dementia kicks in, we can remember what we used to do.
Yeah.
But seriously, thank you all for listening, for caring, for enjoying, for saying wiener along with us. We've gotten places and got to talk to people and do things and be part of stuff that I don't think either one of us would have ever imagined from that first shitty episode we did.
Yeah, and you know what else is pretty fucking cool too, man, is like there are people that because we're as 2000 AD fans, we're starved for 2000 AD hangs. We're starved for like getting to chat with it about people, and you know, we've got people are in the chat right now, but we also have like guys and I dudes whose names I remember, which is a big deal for me, like the Paul Conaways and the Al Tooleys of the world out there who like listen to our stuff and then come in and either give us a commentary on what they thought of the prog, or will come in and like tell us the answers to all the dumb questions we had. And like that's cool too, because we don't have a big community of Dredd people. Like we don't really have that we didn't until we started this podcast, and now we do have people. It's like it's cool, you know. And someone in the chat says 45 wieners.
That's a lot of wieners.
So what's your Judge Dredd news? Do you have Dredd news?
Mortis, Hiya Toys announced Mortis, the figure, which leaves us one dude left. And if he doesn't show up, we're going to friggin' hear about it until the podcast is over, aren't we?
Oh, you're going to hear about it. Because look, I've been through this. Everybody's out here. I've been victimized, Johnny. I'm a victim.
Life has been done to me.
I'm out here and everybody's like, oh my God, Mortis, and Mortis looks so good. And I'm like, you know what? I got a Mortis on my shelf. You know what? I got a Fear and I got a Death, and I even got a goddamn Robo Hunter, but I don't have a Judge Fire. And how hard is it to make a Judge Fire? Let me tell you, folks, you get a Ghost Rider figure, you pull the head off, or you get a Jason the Argonauts figure and you put some goop on him that looks like fire. Blobs, you paint it orange. That's all I need to be happy. You could piece that together from shit you already got laying around. If we don't get a Judge Fire, I'm not buying these Hiya Toys. Now, Hiya Toys, I've said from the beginning, I was like, you know what? I don't know that I need those, which is crazy because I know I buy all the Judge Dredd shit. But like, I'm like, I feel like I got these. If they do the Fire, guess what? Now I have to have everyone. I have to have them all. So if Hiya Toys makes the Fire, I'm in. If they don't make it, then it's fucking buy you toys. See you later. Get out of here.
Dude, what if they bypass Fire, but they make a Francis Bacon figure?
I wouldn't know who it was, obviously. Oh my God. The order play set.
Francis Bacon.
I can imagine the pitch for the order play set. They're like, somebody comes in and he's like, we've taken pieces from all these random toy sets we made that failed. We got a train and we got some birds, and here's a bald Benjamin Franklin, and they just take a bunch of random shit. And there's your order play set.
Yeah, look, it's a tiny little Paul Bunyan you can stick up your own butthole.
It really goes to just places where I don't know. I don't know, man. I'm not shitting on the order again, but Chelsea in the chat is saying that we'll just bootleg a Judge Fire, and I thought about it, but man, we just need a real Fire out here. We need a Fire, and like back to when Planet Replicas, one of the saddest things that ever happened to me, man, was collected all those fucking Judge badges. I got them all, but guess who got fucked again? Planet Replicas. They made a few limited Judge Fire badges that lit up, and man, I was really that was my prized possession I was hoping for, and I missed out, man. I never got one. And now Planet Replicas is no more. Rest in peace. That was the coolest fucking place, man. That was the 2000 AD community lost some good stuff when we lost Planet Replicas.
I mean, I was even hyped for the friggin' the Dredd messenger bag. I was like, oh shit, I'll buy that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sometimes I do feel a little guilty because I bought a lot of Planet Replica stuff, man. I have 2 Dredd badges, a side Judge badge. I got all the Dark Judges badge. So I did.
No, you don't have all the Dark Judges badges.
Oh, that was all the 3. I had all those, but the big regret that they did the Rogue Trooper bag. I didn't get that, and sometimes I do feel like I should. It's like you should just buy one of everything because you want to support it. But man, it's hard to keep up with when you're importing stuff.
Yeah, tell me about it. We can't even get a Prog over here.
Yeah.
Speaking of progs,
Yeah, I was gonna say we did get a prog, just digital prog. So let's talk about the digital prog, I guess.
man, I legit anytime, like I said in the intro, anytime John Wagner comes back to Dredd, my butthole puckers because his return usually predicates some just friggin' catastrophe that befalls Mega City 1.
Yeah. Yeah, and we know we're probably going for a nice long walk, pun intended, on this one instead of just for a quick little story, because I don't think we're just gonna bring Wagner back for a little quick thing. I think we're maybe getting into some of those some of the real meat of the stories here. Not that we're people out here that just think that Judge Dredd is only written by Wagner. It doesn't count. We're not in that camp.
Absolutely not.
No. And before we get into that, it does mention here in the prog that artist illustrator Ian Kennedy passed away, and it's got a little section there. So I feel like that's although it's mentioned in the prog, we should also mention that he was 89 years old, and a big part of the prog. So
that's a hell of a run.
Yeah, absolutely. So what'd you think of this first chapter, and how much of it makes sense to you, being someone who's read Dredd for a while?
We've talked about it a million times on the podcast. One of the things we love about 2000 AD is they will bring back events from the past. Everything is cumulative. Everything matters. And here we are going back to the Apocalypse War.
Every time John Wagner comes back for the big stories, that's his linchpin there. That's for John Wagner, from his perspective, it seems like, and of course it's maybe I don't know about the worst thing. I don't know how to categorize that, but it's definitely the point in Dredd's history when he did the most damage. He killed everybody.
He killed an entire city.
Yeah, and he took the responsibility to end the war in that way. And I think John Wagner, there's something cool about that, where it's not about maybe creating a new story, but going and saying, look, on a realistic level, what ramifications that would have. And John Wagner goes back to that well over and over and over, and Dredd is never ever going to live that down. It's never something that's going to leave. It's going to haunt him forever.
Well, he did call an audible there and go into business for himself, as they say in certain industries. And he blew up a whole city. So that's going to come back and bite you in the ass every now and then.
Yeah, and he was it's just an interesting thing, this idea of he was issuing a sentence, but he was issuing a sentence on innocent people in that, and I know that's what's great about that story is it's, at the time, maybe it was just whatever it is, but the more you dig into it, the more you're Dredd sentenced East Meg to death by fire and nuclear hell, Holocaust, but in that he was sentencing women and children and old people, and in that case, was he saving the city? Was he taking revenge? And it's all twisted, and that's smart. Somebody writes a story like that all those years ago, and you can easily just gloss over it, just like Marvel Comics likes to do, just like DC likes to do. Hey, this will change things in Marvel Comics forever until next year, and then fuck it. Never does that happen in Judge Dredd, except for with the Moon. Rob Williams, please explain. But it's just it's cool to go back to this well, and every time we see Apocalypse War stuff pop up, we know it's going to be something hardcore for Judge Dredd. And boom, someone just joined the chat, Douglas Morris, and he said wiener.
A very good wiener to you too, sir. A fabulous wiener for all.
Yes. So does the Citadel that raise any sort of thing for you? Is that
It's been probably, I want to say 3 years since I last read um, the Apocalypse War, so I can't remember.
Okay.
I'm sure our usual information sources will be on the Facebook page tomorrow,
Yeah.
going, "No, it's this stupid," and I love when that happens.
Yeah. Again, man, we've read the story, and here we are, and it's like as we got to the end, the last thing, he's talking about the Citadel because I know about the Citadel, I know what happened, I know the truth, and they can never let it get out. The truth about Dredd, and I don't know if this was a scenario where people who are really well read up went like, holy shit, Dredd was involved in the Citadel incident, or if it was everybody going like, what the fuck's the Citadel? And I need to know more. I don't know. But for me, I was going, oh, what the fuck's the Citadel? I need to know more. So that's where
Need
I
to know
am.
more intensifies.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
it's just going to be him going, "Yeah, Dredd's a dick. That's the truth." I'm like, "Fuck, dude, we knew that." 12 chapters later.
Yeah. Dredd's an asshole.
Damn it.
Shakes Mega City 1 to its core.
Son of a bitch. I
Yeah.
mean, I could have told you that in the first chapter. Okay, whatever. No, like I said, Wagner's at the helm. And so I'm immediately assuming the worst, and I'm assuming some earth shaking revelation.
Yeah.
Because John doesn't just show up for no good reason.
Yeah. Yeah. He's got something. He's got something in mind. So we're in good hands now, man. I'm excited. Dredd's been good for a while. There hasn't really been too many bad Dredd stories lately, but I'm glad we got John Wagner back because it's usually pretty substantial. So
And it's good to have, we know we have a multi-part Dredd story, because the last couple weeks it's been, one-offs and singles and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah. Hey, and speaking of substantial, I don't want to be this guy. I don't want to be this guy every week, right? Okay.
It's dead ass with HMK.
That's true because Coandrum, we know she's safe. She's not in this Prog, although she's going to be court-martialed, so we can't just. I'm worried about that, but Coandrum had cake, that ass. But holy shit, this Celeste, this Scorcher, has a giant, incredibly gigantic, awesome Scorcher butt.
He is a most righteous posterior. He is B-word fat. He talks like this.
You know what it reminded me of?
Badass.
No. Let me see if I can. I think it's this one.
You're dialing up an ass?
No. I can't find it. But what I was looking for.
You can't find that ass.
No, hold on. I was thinking about. Here we go. Just give me a second. I need this here. Oh, it's too long. All right. So I was looking for the quote from Bill and Ted where they compliment Station.
Oh, Station, yeah.
On his Martian butt.
Yes.
And the Grim Reaper says, "What about my butt? Reaping burns a lot of calories." But I feel like we should compliment Celeste on his or its or their or her giant Scorcher, fantastic Scorcher butt.
It is triumphant. It is most triumphant. So the days here, friggin', what's her name? Help me here. You're not helping.
No, I'm not helping at all. I'm done.
You're just fucking sitting there and watching me.
Proteus Vex is here. Celeste is here.
Shrocklin. That's who I was trying to.
Oh, never knew that name. So good.
Well,
good on
she's
you.
from Another Dawn.
Okay.
She was in Another Dawn, yeah. And she shows up and decides to. Vex is trying to control the flow of information here, so not everybody gets murdered. And she's just spilling all the beans, and he's going, "Will you shut up? Shut up." And then for her trouble, she gets pumped like a grape.
Yeah, man, just got squeezed to death there by this Scorcher. And like these guys were so cool, sort of in the when we first met these guys, super cool. And man, they got a whole lot less cool here because they're like, we want to be special.
We're
If
special.
we can't be
Everybody,
special, we're gonna kill everybody. What a bunch of
nobody,
dicks.
nobody else gets to be born like we were. Yeah, I'm the special one.
Like
You don't get to be special.
they really went from being like these awesome, and I think it's like obviously where we're supposed to go, but these awesome, mysterious, like kind of like regal-ish, like we stay out of it, to being just the biggest fucking cosmic douchebags of all time.
Now, what if
Um,
it's Glass Raven? What if he's okay, and it's just Celeste who's being a giant intergalactic dickhole?
Maybe, man, but it seems to me like they're all pretty hardcore bought into this bullshit. And we'll see, though. Yeah, Celeste is just, I'm just like, man, what a pathetic, from the greatest race, these cool, badass, mysterious things that Vex had this cool history with, and then you find out they're just fucking losers.
No, I want to be special. I'll kill everybody else who thinks I'm not special. I'll kill them. Yeah,
So when they do the audio drama, are you gonna lend your voice?
Let me be it. Let me do it. That's my audition tape right there. I'm gonna send it in.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me be Celeste. Well, what's your audition? He talking like this. You need to bet your butt. I don't want to be special.
Hey, so real quick, the chat says Nick in the chat says that Citadel's new information for everyone. We also have Subpar in the chat. Perfect place to be, Subpar, with a name like that, because that's what we do here. Was asking about this giant humble bundle full of British comics, lots of Dredd, and I know also lots of Devlin Wog. So
now watch pronouncing that wrong, because you'll get called the fuck out on our Facebook page.
I expect nothing less. So yeah, there's like so many it's like $91 worth of shit, or $291. There's a lot. 25 comics, $25.
I think it's 3 issues of Dredd, and the rest of it's just the Claw and the gun nipple guy, Spider.
Dude, so much shit from like the treasury of British comics that I want, minus the 3 issues of Little Billy and his magic soccer ball. I don't want any of that shit, but I'll take it if I can get gun nipples, the Claw, Shock's in there, Action's in there, Action 2020, Shock's in there. Like, if I know some people in the chat, Chelsea in the chat saying she picked it up. Read Action 2020, read Shock. Shock's like, man, Shock was like my favorite.
Shock was life altering. You had a come to the Claw moment there.
I did, man. I want a nice hardcover version of the Spider. I want the Claw. I love that stuff. Like that. That's the kind of stuff I want to sit around and read, man. I'm into that stuff. The treasury of British comics, I have not dug in nearly enough, and it's only a time issue for me. But when I order my Proteus Vex, which the Proteus Vex trade is up for pre-order right now, and when I order that, I'm gonna order some hard copies of some of that other stuff, like the Spider. I'm fucking ordering that. Gun nipples all the way, man.
And anybody who hasn't read Vex or wants to support Vex, get that trade. It is by far one of the best brand new stories in the Prog in 15 years.
Even if it's not hard bound in leather, scorcher skin, we'll accept that when they do the next issue. I don't like this idea that the 3rd chapter is not included, and I'm hoping that means we're going to get a 4th chapter and they're going to bundle those 2.
Remember that edition that's coming out is only Another Dawn, which was only the first story.
Yeah. Hey, also some people in the chat. SJS is here, by the way. Paul is here, and he's. I didn't know they existed in the same universe, but apparently Devlin had a crush on Judge Dredd going back in '91. So I didn't know those guys were in the same universe, but that's a whole other deal there.
That confuses Joe even more.
Yeah.
What do I do? This is the most confusing boner I've ever had.
Yeah.
My day stick.
So, Proteus Vex. This was a cool episode. Our concern for Midnight has been noted. we're just gonna hold it out. These guys are fucking dick fucks from outer space, and there's no way they can live. There's no way they can continue, because for them to exist now, it's going to require lots of races to be exterminated just so they can be super duper special. I don't like it.
But I'm special. Me. I'm special. So
I'm letter B fat and I'm special.
Blah, blah, me. All right. So I get the feeling that the rest of our review is going to get real short, real quick. Indigo Prime. It's something I've always wanted to read. Indigo Prime, but I
was going to ask: is that because you don't think I read anything else?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
I've always wanted to read Indigo Prime, but I never have. So I just didn't know what was going on. I had a medical procedure Monday, and to have said procedure, I had to be put under. Apparently, according to my wife, they told her they gave me more than usual. I don't know why. Maybe I was being a dick in the OR. But I don't remember anything until I was in the car shouting about going to Ollie's, leaving. That's how I felt reading Indigo Prime at this point. What? I got to the end and I didn't remember anything that happened in the middle. And I said to myself, I don't know this world. I have no idea what the hell's going on. So here's this.
Do you remember calling me after your procedure? Because you did.
Did I?
Yes, but all you said was, take me back to Dr. Longfingers. So I have absolutely no context for that.
Well, the joke is on you because it was upstairs this time.
Well, Dr. Longfingers, he can go upstairs by going downstairs. That's why he's Dr. Longfingers.
He's not on duty until this fall for the return.
He's on duty? Oh, my God. Okay, let's keep going. Hold on. Yeah, dude, Indigo Prime. I did read Indigo Prime. I know nothing about Indigo Prime.
Good. So we're in the same boat.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those things where, like, we're going to just check it out. I would like to know if we got Indigo Prime fans out here in the chat. Are there people that are into this, that have read this? I'll tell you, man, I don't know what fucking universe this takes place in, but the young guy here looks like he's dressed like a modern sort of guy, and then this other guy's got cybernetic parts, and then there's an old fucking bomber plane, and I'm like, man, I don't want to spend much more time in some place where the hook is, but there's planes from World War I, but there's also this future thing, and like, I've been traumatized by the Order, man.
You're gonna be here again in a second too.
I know.
Yeah, apparently this is a new era for Indigo Prime starts now. Well, that's great because I didn't read the old era. So
no, I did not read the old era either. But I got nothing against Indigo Prime. It's going way further down the sort of a direction that I'm into than some of the other stories that had these kind of same-ish sort of elements. So yeah,
it's always seemed interesting to me, and I'm interested in this, but I don't know what is happening.
Right. And, I know we're dealing with multiverse and different dimensions and all that stuff. So it's going to be weird for a little bit. And then hopefully sooner or later it'll be like, here we have Brink in the back of this Prog. And Brink was certainly one where we just kind of strapped in and went for the ride. And man, it was like so rewarding when we got to the place where we ended up eventually. So I got faith in Indigo Prime. I just nothing grabbed me right away, and I'm a simple creature. So and some people are saying that they in the chat that they felt like Indigo Prime was pretty disjointed, from panel to panel. And yeah, definitely, man. It's like almost you could take a page here and a page there and show people, and it feels like a couple different comics are happening here. But when you're dealing with weird multi-dimensional shit, I guess that kind of allows you to experience that. So I don't know, man. I know it's been in the Prog for a while. I've got some pretty sure I got some oldish Progs where Indigo Prime was going back then. So
I know they had I'm pretty sure they had a story running when we started doing this whole shtick 3 years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
Let that sink in. 3 years. This September, we've been doing this dumb thing for 3 years.
No, that's crazy. Jesus
How did
Christ.
we get here?
I did learn something this week, Johnny, and
Okay.
we are all very probably me more than
Aroused.
anybody. We are guilty many weeks. I am guilty most weeks of not thoroughly reading what's going on this Tharg's Nerve Center page, being Cat Sullivan's Droid Life. Sometimes I read it, sometimes I miss it, just to throw you off. Sometimes I will read it, but so here we are the other week, and we're talking about Kingmaker, and
Kingsmaker, plural.
it's a new beer. It's a new
Two of them.
IPA. We're talking about it and how we kind of didn't get it. And so I was reading the sort of summary that Paul put up, and he usually posts them. And I actually, if you're listening to this, I feel like it's almost like an extension of our podcast now. Like our friend Paul, who I believe lives in Japan right now, will that could be totally made up by me, but I'm pretty sure, because it takes him a while to get the progs too. And he'll read it, and then he'll put his summary up. And he's a big Vex fan, and so we got to talking about Kingmaker, and he was like, "You guys don't understand what's going on. Like, read the little blurb at the beginning, dummies." And I was like, "Oh, shut up!" And I went back and I read it, because I never fucking read it, and I was like, "Oh wow, man." Yeah, that kind of does explain a lot more. And I'm just going to go ahead and read it. So if anybody's lazy like me, let me just read this, Johnny. The 9 kingdoms may have defeated Iknar, the Wraith King, to live in relative peace. But they hadn't reckoned on the Thorn, a race of aliens that occupied their world with the intention of strip mining its magic. Wizard Abelard, Orc, Cyrus, I don't know how you pronounce this, and Dredd, Princess Yarrow, I'm just doing my best here, believe that they may have the means to stop them, but Iknar manifested in Abelard, and Cyrus, whatever his name is, and Yarrow were forced to kill him. Iknar's spirit escaped, and I'm telling you, that actually like put me back on track with the story. This is stupid that I'm over here going, if you read the little blurb in the beginning, it really did fucking help me to know not only what's happening in this story, but what happened fucking last time when we were reading this. And I was like, I don't know what's fucking going on. He killed this guy and this, that. No, it explained it. And so, that's on me, man. If you're out there reading and sometimes you get into this like scenario where you're going like, man, I don't know what the fuck's happening here, just read the little blurb in the beginning, because it totally helped me on this one.
It is my constitutional right as an American to remain ignorant and charge into things and complain about not understanding what's going on.
Isn't it crazy though, how, like, I don't know about you, but just reading that, like, all of a sudden I knew who was on whose team. I knew what was going on, and this wizard returning and getting a big hug from our orc friend, like all of that stuff made more sense to me. So, it's kind of one of those situations where it's like, it was never a magic hub cap. The magic was inside of me all along, and I didn't even know it.
I've always said you're full of magic.
No, thank you. Appreciate that. This episode of Kingmaker was action-packed, and it was cool looking. And I felt more, I can't be that I read that fucking blurb, man, but I felt more connected to it. And I don't know, man, like, I'm okay with it now. Like, I'm like, you know what? Okay, I get it. I don't know, but I feel better about this week, man.
I'm glad our green friend got a hug from older gentleman.
Older man. That's Albard or Abelard or whatever the fuck his name is. It's Absalom. Now we're mixing stories that I can't remember anything from. Yeah.
So, what did you think of Tharg the Mighty Stars on 45?
I fucking thought it was awesome. What about you?
I just like going, oh look, It's Zombo. Oh shit, it's Ace Trucking. Oh shit, fucking, it's Walter. Walter's here for a hot
Yeah,
minute.
yeah. When I started out, I was like, oh God, okay. And I thought, I don't know where it turned me. It was cool seeing all the dudes, But what I kind of like really, when it finally turned me, like, if it would have ended when they all get together and sing the little song, I would have hated this. Um, if it would have ended when they sit down and do their little, like, because that could have been the end, man, right there. Oh, what kind of jazz is it? It's not cool jazz or classic jazz or acid jazz. No, it's czar jazz. Bing, the end. But they didn't, and that's good because that would have been like, yeah,
That's some
no, no,
dad
no,
tier quality bullshit right there.
yeah. So then my favorite part of this though is they try to put everybody back in, and they in the panels here, and now you've got like all these mashed up panels, and I don't know, like the gaze into the fist of red, that was fucking great, man. Walter
Walter,
fucking
some
yeah,
Sounders. Poor Walter.
yeah. So that's where I liked it, man. I was like, if this would have ended with that czar jazz joke, I wouldn't have been about it, but
Would have been another letter to the editor right there.
yeah, yeah. Please disregard everything I said, sirs. Um,
I
yeah.
am
So
angry.
yeah, it was cool. It was a nice little way to celebrate the 45. Jesus Christ, that's crazy, man.
Yeah, Dredd's got to get a colonoscopy.
Um, man, what would we do if there was no 2000 AD? How sad of a world would that be?
You
Think
and I
about it.
wouldn't be doing this for sure. That's for sure.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I articulated there in my like letter to Tharg. I was said like, to a large degree, here we are. I don't know if I used the dreaded C word. Maybe I did, but we're 3 years
Cranky.
in, and 3 years in, and 2080 has been a very nice, welcome constant for us. That I mean, in the middle of like a lot of stuff, man. Family members dying, people getting sick, job loss, job gain. We've managed to keep it going, and at least our reading. I don't know that there was ever a week where we didn't read. And
There was
so
many a
it's
fun night spent in the garage, eating too much junk food, reading about, yelling about Judge Dredd, and then watching terrible wrestling.
yeah, yeah. So for me, the 25th, 20 or 40, 25th,
Oh,
45 years
you're falling apart.
45 years of 2000 AD is great, but man, the last 3 years of 2000 AD got me through, and I think got you through, like got us through a tough time, and gave us some stuff to shout about, and I'm like way grateful for that. And would we have bonded over something else? I think we're destined to bond over a million things, but this was the thing that brought us together, as like it gave us a purpose to hang out. And as we get older, I think we both have seen this, man. The older you get, the more you kind of have to make time to go hang out with your friends. When I was in high school, everybody just hung out every day, but it's like having a thing to do every week and keeping somebody in your life. That's cool. So 2080 has been that for us. So I'm 45 years is great, but man, the last three is where it's at for me. That's what got me through. So
And it's a
yeah.
good thing we were here to see him through to the end. They wouldn't have made 45 if it wasn't for us.
No, no, true. I know they're I'm still waiting on that acknowledgement from Tharg, like maybe in the 50th it'll be about these two muties out here in the cursed earth, and how they saved a comic company.
You're
Um
all welcome.
yes. um oh
That's
God, the
sarcasm.
order.
It's sarcasm. All of our listeners should know that by now. I'm being a sarcastic asshole. Yes, the order. How many Paul Bunyans do you want in you?
None. uh, dude, I, well, I don't know. There's more tentacles this week.
Tentacle grape. It's my
I
favorite.
can't. I can't give. I can't even give this. I can't even give it a fair shake at this point, man. We've made too much of it. it's become a symbol of frustration. I don't feel like I can ever give the order like a really a decent shake on this show, because I just think I've gone too far down with it to where I don't even pay attention anymore, and it's terrible. That's where I'm at. If there is somebody out there that loves the order and wants to come on our show and give us the lowdown and tell us why it's cool, like, I think that would be awesome, because I know there's probably people that listen that like the order, and every time we say that we don't like it, they're probably out there cussing us. Come on the show and we'll talk about the order.
To this podcast, they are not listening to this podcast, but I have seen them in other Judge Dredd groups. I've seen people like the negative Cursed Earth Radio, where they love the order and they don't like Proteus Vex. It was so weird.
Yeah, that's weird, man. It's bizarro world for me, but everybody comes for different things, and I feel like the order is like maybe again, I always go back to the idea of like I've used this a million times. In case you're new, here's what the order makes me feel like. It's like when I was 9 years old or 8 years old, and I would pick up the comics and I would read every funny, and then I would get to one panel of the Phantom or Prince Valiant and read it and be like, I don't like this. What is happening? That's how I feel every time.
I had an idea today, and I know it'll take some time, but I think at some point we should go through all the episodes, like all of them, and just clip the rants out of every one of them and just put up one episode that is just a compendium of rants.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. We need to do that with the ads too, because there's a lot of ads.
And I miss our intro, man. Like we gotta, if we're gonna keep doing this live on YouTube, we gotta find some way to do the intro with the music and Toby.
Yeah, no, that's true. And there's a way, because I've been looking at it, and there's a lot of other live on YouTube shows that I've watched that managed to do it. It's just about getting us to that place. So we're on a nice trend now where we're actually making this happen every week. So let's just keep following that momentum, and I'm sure we'll get there.
So that brings us to Brink here at the end.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we're back with Brink.
And not a lot happened in it, but that's how Brink starts.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting too, because we're kind of hanging out with some characters that we're not 100% familiar with here.
Yeah, I remembered, like, I read this and I went, man, that's not a lot happened, but then I went, oh, that's how the last Brink chapter started.
Yeah.
And it was probably one of the most fun rides I've had in the history of our podcast. You know, it's up there with reading Vex for me and going, oh shit, this is amazing. It's Brink is like the out almost. And it's a slow burn. You don't really know what we're here for right off the bat, but I know we're going to get there, and that's what I'm looking forward to with Brink.
Yeah, and we start out with a familiar face, and then all of a sudden the camera kind of wanders off to the side, and we're hanging out with some new people, and I'm getting the just kind of settling into their relationship, and this guy's seems like he's in a little bit of a classic life crisis here, where he's toiling away on his life's work, which seems to be continuously expanding, but not really going anywhere. But if they're fucking with unions and getting involved in sort of the behind the scenes of union politics, there's going to be some violence here.
Of course.
This is going to be Mate Wand.
Nobody knows what the hell that is who isn't from where we're from.
Unless you're a Sean Connery fan, then maybe.
The Mate Wand is not in anybody's top 10. That's not from West Virginia.
No. But I'm glad Brink is back. Like we've had enough experience with Brink to know that we're huge fans of it, but it's also, we mention all the time, you don't just get into like issue 1 of Brink and be like, wow, that was amazing. The thrill power in Brink is very like, it creeps in. It's not a big it's not a big smack in the face. Brink
No,
takes a little bit more.
it's the slowest of slow burns, and it's so rewarding. So if you've never read Brink, hang on, hang in there with us, and trust us on this one. There's going to
I
be like,
miss the art. I miss
yeah,
the color palette, which is a little bit different this time. But I really missed it, and I think it's just this idea of like with Brink, it's very much like Mega City. You're kind of hanging out in the world that they've created, and they did like a really good job in that last Brink story of sort of painting a picture of the world. The first Brink that I read, and I think it was like the very first Brink. I remember like it did kind of have something that caught me like right away, which was like it started out and you didn't know where it was going to go, what it was going to be, but it was like the first or second issue where they were like, yeah, we've got this manifest of people that are in the station and people that arrived, and like, but there's like weirdly there's more people in the station than we had on the manifest. And is it a fucking ghost? What is some sort of weird paranormal thing? And all this speculation and like trace down that weird little mystery, and it led to this and that, and went all over to different places. So you never know what you're gonna get with Brink.
you really don't. And it's usually the last time it was like we were both kind of wavering, and then around 9 or 10, it's like, oh shit, all the gears are locked in. I'm in.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. So this is one we've been waiting on, man. We've been waiting on Brink to come back. It's that perfect sci-fi stuff that I really look for in these types of comics. Like this is the kind of stuff that I come to 2000 AD for, because you don't get a Brink in anything else that I can think of. You're not going to get Brink in Marvel. You're not going to get Brink in DC. I can't think of anything else like it. There have been a few other things that were like indie comic based that kind of reminds me of Grant Morrison. I know I mentioned him all the fucking time. He's one of my favorites. He's done some Brinkish kind of things, but they always go into Grant Morrison world, which is like drug fueled gods and extraterrestrials. I like that stuff, but Brink kind of stays a little bit more on the like procedural side of things, and I appreciate that a lot.
It's a little dry, but honestly, it's got a lot of the flavor that I loved about the Out. Similar but different. So,
Yeah.
If it works out, we're going to get the Out and Brink in the Prog at the same time.
Yeah, man. If we have the Out, Brink, Dredd, and Proteus Vex in the Prog at the same time, that's a pretty good world to live in right there.
Yeah, we're gonna be batting 4 out of 5 now, so we're getting there.
Yeah. Maybe we'll bring back the Diabolics. Maybe we'll bring back Red Road. Actually, Johnny, I mentioned Red Road. I mentioned two things in my letter to Tharg, and I mentioned Red Road, and I also said please ask Rob Williams to tell us what happened to the moon, because my friend has been struggling.
My special friend is having a moment, and it's been going on for a year now. Please help shut him up.
Yeah.
We're only 75 cents a day. You can help shut my idiot friend up.
Yeah, man, it's been a pretty good Prog. Like I said, reading the fucking blurb got me on board with Kingmaker. I feel like a dummy.
I read those a lot, and I just ignored it for some reason.
Yeah.
For this time. So,
well, I've ignored it for my entire life. So here I am. I'm gonna start reading them.
I learned a thing on the podcast.
Man, for somebody like myself who loves to read comics, I also hate to read. So that's why I want an us. Like, and I know there are other 2080 podcasts out there, but I don't have time to listen to those. I feel like there's probably somebody out there who's reading and summarizing that I could go listen to, but I can't because I have to do that on here. So it's like
a bit more job of it.
It's like by doing this, I've lost my ability to go listen to someone else talk about it in some ways. But
I've listened to a lot of other podcasts on various comic books. I do love Rob Liefeld's podcast. He is so He's so fucking enthusiastic. No matter what you think about him, his enthusiasm is contagious. Like
Yeah.
he's so just happy and he's so thankful for what he's been able to do. Did you know when he got his first gig at DC and then he jumped over to Marvel and he started picking up steam and, moving up his career. He took care of his entire family, his mom, his dad. His dad had cancer that kept coming back and they spent so much money on treatments. They had to downsize the house, this, that, and the other. And
Wow.
Rob, his whole impetus of making all these characters, making all these books and whatnot was to generate more money so he could take care of his parents.
Wow, that's crazy.
So
No, I didn't know that. I didn't know
you
that.
can't hate on a guy that's like trying to take care of his family. And,
No.
But outside of his podcast, every other podcast that I've listened to, they talk like this. It's very, very quiet, very NPR, and I can't listen to it. I can't. It puts me. It's like was that ASRM, ARSM?
Oh, yeah, something like that. Yeah,
it puts me to sleep, dude. Like I can't.
Yeah, I guess it depends. I know we had a discussion about a Warhammer podcast that was very much like that.
It's very quiet. It's very, very quiet.
Yeah. I listened to quite a few.
Falling asleep, literally at work, at my desk. I started crashing because these guys were the equivalent of auditory Valium.
Yeah, right. And Warhammer is a very dry subject anyway, and so yeah, that's tough. There's a few podcasts that I listen to, not in the comic realm. I listen to a few wrestling podcasts because it's very rare that you're going to get someone who was involved in professional wrestling that's not a big personality. So I always like that. And I listen to a heavy metal podcast that no one on here is ever going to go venture out to, but they're called Terminus Metal Podcast. And they dig so far down into underground music that I don't even know where the fuck we're at. And I really like that because
saying something for you.
These are two guys, man, and they just go by the names the death metal guy and the black metal guy. I love this. I'm gonna shout out this podcast because I do love it very much. But they'll bring up a record that nobody has ever heard of that they went and dug for and found on Bandcamp, and they'll have a discussion about it. But they'll have like an hour and 45-minute discussion and dissect this, raw black metal on cassette only, record with the most just amazing references and great music knowledge and also it's not dry, but yeah, I've got a good number of podcasts I listen to, yeah, it's always, it just depends, man. I do like, if you're talking about dry subject matter, put a little wiener in it, you know what I'm saying?
Put your balls on it. Hey, before we get out of here, I think you and I need to shout about Texas Chainsaw, the new one. Just hit Netflix, because I know George came to you after he's talking to me, and you jumped in my DMs, and you want to start some shit, and then you left.
Well, you're talking nonsense. Number one.
No, I'm not, and I'm here. I'm gonna lay it out to you. I don't know what the hell he told you.
Okay. You lay it out to me, then I'll tell you if that's what he told me, and then I'll tell you why I said you're talking nonsense. So let's say this: if you don't want to hear Texas Chainsaw remake, requel, then you're good to go. Here it is, Wiener. If you want to stick around and listen to us shout about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, now's the time. Okay, go ahead.
I said overall I enjoyed it. It was good. As Texas Chainsaw sequels go, it's far from the worst. But I said the director took some influences from Rob Zombie's Halloweens and the current Halloween series and put them into this movie. Most notably in the van sequence where Bubba escapes the back of the van. That was very reminiscent of Michael's escape from the van in Halloween 2. And the soundtrack, the audio, the score, all had a lot of influences from Tyler Bates' work on Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 and Halloween. And the uber violence, saw a lot of Rob Zombie influence there. And of course, the new Jamie Lee Curtis return in Halloween 2018 with what's her face, the final girl in this one.
Yeah. Okay. So Now, what, and that's kind of what our friend told me, but even hearing you say that, I'll say this. I believe 100%, I believe 1000% that the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre was somebody sitting around being like, hey, what's that Halloween thing that just got real popular? Let's just rip that off. Let's bring back Sally Hardesty and have her go after Michael. And she can even look exactly like Jamie Lee Curtis does and blah, blah, blah.
You can use guns.
Yeah, I get that. But I'm saying, man, if you think anybody involved with this went, let's go back to the well of Rob Zombie's failed, and I'm not saying it's a bad movie because we watched it. If you think anybody went back to that failed property, that failed two movies, and took influence and tried to bring it in, I think that's crazy talk, because it's like going, hey, we're making a Brink movie. Go get me that. Go get me that Battlefield Earth, and let's bring that in and see what we can take from that. Because even from a Hollywood standpoint, man, that was a flop and a half. So I can't imagine somebody going back to that well.
You put that van sequence next to the van sequence in Halloween 2 and come back and talk to me about it.
Okay, but you're also a Halloween fan, right? Big time.
I mean,
how many times has, you can go to any other Halloween and there's always a Michael Myers van crash. You know what I mean?
No, that happens in 4. And then it happens in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2.
Okay. But do you really think that they watched Halloween 2, the Halloween 2?
That whole sequence is so reminiscent of Michael's van escape in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Down to him using the shard of broken glass to eviscerate the surviving victim.
But here's the thing for me on that. I know what you're saying. I get it, but I think you're okay. Let's be honest here, Johnny. You're the only person in the entire world that likes that movie. And
I think you're full of shit.
So you have a Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 costume. You know the name of Tyler Bates. That's the thing for you.
Well, he also scored a lot of other movies that aren't Rob Zombie movies.
Right. But I'm just saying, that's a movie that is in your consciousness. But for me, I don't think anybody else would ever use that as inspiration, because here's why I'm going to say, I'm telling you it's there. I could be wrong. Now, I think it's very clear that they watched Halloween and Halloween Kills, and all the fucking gore in Halloween Kills was where they went to with Texas Chainsaw. Because they clearly went, what's popular? Just bring the old woman back and have her fight Michael. That's what they pitched in the trailer. That's what they went for. And I think it's a total Halloween and Halloween Kills ripoff. And I'm in a weird spot here because I didn't like Halloween because, well, I'm never a fan of, bring back the 900-year-old woman and put her in because the fans are suckers and they just want to see her back. I never care about the Scream Queen. I don't want to see old ass Jamie Lee Curtis face off against Michael. That was never epic to me. I know some people do. That's fine. But here's how I felt about this one, man. It was weird. I liked Halloween Kills because it was dumb, violent, just stupid in a great way. I thought it was a great.
People dies tonight.
Yeah, it was just absurd. So as I'm watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I feel like it was one of the worst sort of mishmashes of two different movies ever. There's a part, and it's exactly the part when he walks onto the bus and the guy goes, "You're going to get canceled." And they all 20 people pull up their phones, and it becomes this half-hearted, jokey social commentary that was never there before, because we spent 2 whole acts trying to make me feel sorry for poor Leatherface, who's 75, who looks like he's 40, who is grieving his dead mother, and he puts her face on, and you try to almost humanize Leatherface, and then the people pull up their phones and he becomes the shark from Jaws. And for me, I love Chainsaw 2. I love the violence in that movie, but this movie was half Chainsaw 2, and that doesn't work for me, brother, because the more times that I saw gore on the screen, the less impactful it got. And you think of like Chainsaw 1, and this was supposed to be a direct sequel to that. There was not a lot of on-screen violence. There was no on-screen gore, very little blood. That's what made it effective. It was real. And they turned him into, they tried to make what they thought was going to be popular. And that's not good for me. It's like I liked 2/3 of this movie, and I hated the last third, starting with the people pulling up their phones on the bus. I hated that more than any movie I've seen in the last 5 years.
Even as horror movie tropes go, the bus slaughter was ridiculous. Like, they couldn't figure out how to open windows and get out. Like,
yeah.
What the fuck? Until the last lady figures out, oh, there's windows, we can get out, and then she gets cut in half. I'm like, I could suspend my disbelief for a lot, but this is just dumb stuff at this point. I wasn't a big fan of the Leatherface mask either. Like, it's hard to beat the original, and it's always going to be compared to the original. To this day, if I sit down and watch the original Texas Chainsaw, it still feels like I'm watching a snuff film. It still feels that visceral, and it still feels like I'm, you're watching something you shouldn't be watching.
Yeah.
And it's because of the lack of budget, because of how they filmed it. It feels like it's legitimately found footage.
Yeah.
And they've never been, all those 70s movies have that. Halloween has it, Texas Chainsaw, stuff like Black Christmas. Just because of the low production values, because they didn't have any friggin' money, makes it feel real and visceral. Whereas now, like when you go uber gore, like with this new Texas Chainsaw, you can go, oh, well, okay. But at least they did practical effects. I'll give it that, that it was good to see practical effects. Was it a great movie? No. Did I hate it? No. I mean, reading the reviews going into it, I thought it was just going to be a shit show.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It was a Texas Chainsaw sequel. I mean,
it was like, what a big problem of mine is too, like working in the field that I work in, like, and I asked this rhetorical question to our friend. I was like, do you remember that guy that escaped from Jeffrey Dahmer? And then like all these years later, the guy comes back with the gun and tries to, hunt Jeffrey Dahmer down. And he's like, no, I didn't hear about him. Like, cause it doesn't happen. Like when you're the victim of a serial killer or this huge trauma and you get away, you're not going to go train to be a vigilante. You're going to go and do a whole lot of trauma work and try to get through that shit and put that behind you. And this misguided idea that, like, Halloween got me the most, that somehow Jamie Lee Curtis is this brave character. It's like, no, she waited 50 years alienating her family, alienated everyone, being this paranoid character for this possibility that it might happen. And I know they're trying to make this big, like, oh, Michael is pure evil and they have this connection. And I don't like that. I don't want that. I don't need Jamie Lee Curtis to have some weird, like weird, almost sexual weirdo fucking relationship where they feel each other and they can sense each other. I don't need that. Like, and Chainsaw is an even bigger offender because it was always trying, the first one, to be based in some reality. And the fact that this woman who watched her friends be butchered went on to be a butcher, and now she's like holding these kids hostage. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to go kill him. And then she confronts Leatherface and she's going like, say their names. And it's just like, it was so insulting in so many ways to anybody who's like done any sort of trauma work, that this is like the character. They either characterize them as just like a crazy person that can't get over it and obsesses over it, and then magically you're proven right at the end. And it's like, or in this case, here comes Sally Hardesty, who none of us had any sort of connection to. Nobody walked away from Texas Chainsaw being like, oh my God, Sally Hardesty, like she was meat. And at the end, she's left traumatized and screaming and presumably away to a mental institution forever because she's seen this trauma. And for her to just turn up after 50 years of being a fucking butcher, and like, she comes in with the shotgun and then makes the stupidest decision ever, which is like letting Leatherface literally get up and go, and she calls him Leatherface. The whole thing was just, it was just killing me. And then the girl, the I thought there was something really great about the girl who was like a victim of like a Columbine scenario. And what's her arc gonna be? And they totally fucking ruined it by she comes back and she picks up the gun, but then they got to add her sister in there who's now got the chainsaw, and you get the Avengers hero shot, and she says leather fuck, and it's like, how do you know that he's called Leatherface? You're forgetting like this is one murder that happened years ago, or one series of murders, and like here we are 500 years later, and like how do you know his name's Leatherface? The whole thing fell apart, and it's like we don't need that. We don't need to see their first victim come back for revenge, because that's not what victims of serial killers do. Do you remember when John Wayne Gacy's victim came back? No, because it never happened. It just that shit never happened.
For Halloween, it made money, so we got to do the thing.
Yes. Yeah, man. Like, it's just crazy how transparent it was, and I feel like so after I watched this, I went and watched a couple of the more recent ones because I've seen them all, as you have. And I went back and I watched Texas Chainsaw, which was named that because at the time there was school shootings or Sandy Hook, I think. And so they didn't want to put Massacre in the title. So it was just Texas Chainsaw. And right then and there, you're like, okay, this is not going to end well. And that's the one that ended with the famous "Do Your Thing, Cuz." So that's a bigger offender than this. Although I think Leatherface looked amazing in that. I love Leatherface in that. He looked cool. His pants were up to his nipples, as it should be.
She just puts him back in the basement. Like, this will be fine. In no way will this blade turn on me and murder me in my sleep.
Yeah.
Man, one of my favorites is still 3. I just wish we could get an actual unfucking censored version of it.
I'm with you. I love 3. I think the Marcus Nispel Platinum Dunes remake was incredible. I know like it came out at a time when movies were being done wrong by remakes, but that one did it right. They added characters in there like Arlie Ermy, who kind of almost stole the show from Leatherface, and that was okay because it kind of treated the material kind of serious and visceral, whereas like "Do Your Thing, Cuz" is the most embarrassing thing. And that guy that made that, dude, that's the same dude, the guy that wrote that. It's the same guy that wrote Jason Goes to Hell, and that guy's terrible, man. That guy sucks. Like I don't know, man. Like, and I like Jason Goes to Hell in some way.
He wears the Canadian tuxedo in, and he's got his shirt tucked into his pants.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know, like, and I'm sure everybody, you hear the same story from everybody, starting with Chainsaw 3, and then going to Texas Chainsaw, people going like, it was very different on the page. And, when the studio got a hold of it, they ripped it apart. We know they did that with Chainsaw 3. That poor director fought to have his name taken off of it. Because like he wasn't the original choice. They had someone else, that person left. They fired this director. They brought this director back. So, I mean, Chainsaw 3 was rough, but honestly, the finished product was kind of like a good, it was kind of like for what they ended up going through. I thought it came out good too. I like teenage thrash metal Leatherface listening to Death Angel driving around in his blue truck with human skin stretched across the front, which is absurd, but whatever.
Dude, when I was going to the comic book stores around that time, I remember seeing the big 24x36 theatrical poster of it where it's just him holding the saw and he's backlit.
Yeah.
And you really can't see him, but you see the saw and it's all chrome. And the blade guard says the saw is family. And I just remember being, holy shit. It's so 90s. It really is. Kim Forey's amazing in it. He's just Ken Forey playing a character. He's not actually a character.
Yeah.
But those, like, the kills exist somewhere. If they can scrape together Halloween 6, the producer's cut in HD, they can clean up, Texas Chainsaw 3 and put everything back in. Same thing with all the Fridays in the late 80s that got butchered by the censors. Those kills that footage still exists somewhere in a vault.
Yeah,
Why
for sure.
are we not getting it? I know Beekler said that like 7, all they had left were the dailies. I don't care. Put it in.
Yeah, just jam it in there. It's
Back.
fine.
I just watched My Bloody Valentine, the original special edition, where they found the old footage and jammed it back in, and it's bad quality. And there's even like a disclaimer at the beginning. It says like some of this stuff isn't that good. And I'm like, I don't fucking care. I want to see bad footage of the dummy rolling around in the dryer. I'm fine. Put it in. Fucking jam
man. And so Paul in the chat says that Evil Dead was the first film that scared him, the 81 classic. And yeah, it's interesting, man. I've heard we got Evil Dead. I was born in 81, so I got Evil Dead later. And by that time, I think the first one that I saw was Evil Dead 2. And when you see Evil Dead 2 and then you see Evil Dead 1, it kind of ruins it because the tone of Evil Dead 2 is cheesy. But I've heard a lot of people, and my brother was one who used to say, like, man, when you got a hold of a copy of Evil Dead, you thought you're going straight to hell. Like, this is the real shit, you know?
They had that Texas Chainsaw vibe where you're going, I shouldn't be watching this. You know, it's obviously a snuff film. It's real footage, or else it would look better.
Yeah. And I've got to admit, man, I am also, I'll probably get a lot of shit in the chat for saying this, but I really genuinely loved the Evil Dead remake, and it's because they did not try to bring a fake Ash in. They just did something.
Not a remake. It's not a remake. That was supposed to tie back in. It was supposed to be an alternate timeline. I love the fact that they split Ash's personality over 5 characters because they knew they couldn't ever recapture Ash. But what we can do is, shatter him and spread him over 5 different people. That movie is fucking great. Like, it's such a different tone. It's so fucking brutal.
It's it makes me, you can watch that one and really disassociate it with the material enough to where, like, it's the opposite of what happens for a lot of people in that Nightmare on Elm Street remake, which is like they see someone else in the Freddy makeup and it does not compute. So just don't put an Ash in there. Well,
not to mention you're good. That the effects were shit.
Yeah.
It was just that all the major franchises have been rebooted at least once at this point, with the exception of Hellraiser, because Clive Barker, for some reason, can't get that fucker off the ground.
Yeah.
All of them, Nightmare on Elm Street's the one that shit the bed. All the other remakes landed, but Nightmares was so fucked up that they've never gone back to it.
Yeah, it's bad when they can kill off a franchise for as long as they killed off Nightmare, and like that was like at the tail end too. Like, when I think about the big remake trend, honestly, it was kind of the Texas Chainsaw remake, which came out and did so well because it was a really well-made film. It came out and did so well, and then I think everybody jumped on board, but like you can't really recapture that magic with as much as you could. And like I don't know, we've had this conversation too. This idea that what would have happened if Marcus Nispel would have directed Halloween and Rob Zombie would have directed Texas Chainsaw, because it seems like those are the guys that should have swapped places. But
yeah, because Rob's done nothing but make Texas Chainsaw movies that weren't called Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah. Even putting Texas Chainsaw 2 actors in his movies.
Oh yeah, I mean, Bill Moseley is now synonymous more so with Rob Zombie than he'll ever be with Texas Chainsaw 2, because he's been in so many Rob Zombie movies. House of a Thousand Corpses is 100% Texas Chainsaw love. That's his love letter to Texas Chainsaw, completely and utterly. I don't think they'll ever be able to. They just need to leave Nightmare on Elm Street where the fuck it is. They're never going to be able to get back on that one. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Halloween's been able to do it. I don't know why we haven't gone back to Friday the 13th, because I like that one.
Yeah, I like that remake too. I had no problem with it because take away the first like 5-minute recap and it could just be a sequel. They didn't need to even call it a remake because they did nothing different. They didn't reestablish anything. Okay, he's got tunnels underneath and he runs. He did that in 6 movies, man. 5 movies. Jason was out here running like a motherfucker from 2 to True to five. He was running his ass off. So that was no problem. Making him a hunter, making him smart. That was fine. I like the makeup. I liked all that stuff. I'll defend that one, man. It was good. I like the kids too. The kids, and especially the kids that died real early. That first group in the.
Oh yeah, the baghead kills.
Yeah, those kids were great, man. I would have rather seen a whole movie with those guys than a whole movie with the guys we got. Because you got Jared Padalecki from Supernatural, and I think that guy's a good actor, but when you see him, you're like, oh, okay, I know you're gonna live. I know you're gonna survive, man.
Dude, I love the look of Baghead in that movie. I thought he looked great.
Yeah,
almost so than OG Baghead.
Yeah, he looked a lot more menacing for sure. The thing is with these remakes too, man. Like for me, I always think it's a catch-22 because there's a lot of movies that need to be remade. But for me, it's mostly, and I've probably changed on this over the years because there was a point when I didn't want to see any fucking remake at all. What kind of remedied that for me was Texas Chainsaw and then The Hills Have Eyes, which I thought was fucking masterpiece remake. But again, you got Alexandra Aja on that, who is himself one of the great directors in horror out there, 100%. But for me, like the movies that need to be remade are movies that aren't readily recognizable. Like, oh, there's a Burning remake. Well, like not a lot of people know what that is. Yeah, that's why it's like primed to be remade. It's like reintroduce it to somebody. I hold that as like one of my favorite movies, but it's not sacred to a lot of people. So you're not going to get backlash if you remake The Burning. Whereas as soon as you put your fucking mitts on, Pinhead, which is this character that a bunch of people have tattooed on them, or Leatherface, you're fucking around with people's shit. And like they're not gonna. There's always gonna be people that hate it because it's a remake. Have been one of those. Might be one of those again. You never know.
Well, I love Chopping Mall. It's not a lot of people like it. I love it. It's goofy 80s horror. Some team was trying to remake it, and I was like, oh, that'll be interesting. And they said, oh yeah, and it doesn't take place in a mall; it takes place in a warehouse. And I was like, what?
Chopping Mall in a warehouse?
Said, there's the killbots aren't there; it's zombies. And I'm like, well, you're not fucking remaking Chopping Mall, how are you?
Zombie warehouse.
If you're gonna do that, don't. But if there's like Motel Hell, remake Motel Hell, make it an actual horror movie. Instead of 15 minutes,
yeah, dude, Motel Hell. the image of the pig with the chainsaw is so striking that it deserves its own movie. I mean, and it's had what's it called? What's the movie called? Fucking Mason County or Madison County. It's had Pork Chop 1 through 3. It's had The Butcher. It's had a million other movies that were what Motel Hell was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And but yeah, remake it under Motel Hell. Get rid of the fucking burying people and making jerky, and just make a Killer Pig Man. That's what we want. Killer Pig Man.
I mean, without him, we don't have Philip J. Pigman.
That's true. Yeah, that's very true.
He ain't there.
Yeah, so like stuff that deserves a remake, or maybe not deserves, but stuff that could be remade. The catch-22 is like I said, hey, we're remaking Motel Hell. Some person somewhere is going to go, there's not a lot of people really know that, so we're not going to remake it. But then you remake something that people are going to know, and you're going to disappoint people. The Last House on the Left remake was nerfed. Nobody wants to see that. The Black Christmas got a remake that I used to think was terrible. Went back and rewatched it, and I really enjoyed it because I wasn't going in precious with it. And then they remade the remake, and that was terrible.
I was gonna say, that got 2 remakes. If they said we're going to remake Phantasm, the fuck you are.
Yeah,
you're going to leave Phantasm alone, sir.
Yeah,
somebody was trying to get a Maniac Cop remake off the ground. I think that due to shit in the country right now, I don't think that's going anywhere at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so many lesser known horror movies from the 80s. I loved what they did with The Town That Dreaded Sundown. I really liked that, where it wasn't so much a remake, but they treated the original as a documentary of real events.
Yeah.
And this guy was following up on it. I thought that was great. And there's Town That Dreaded Sundown, a movie that just got lost in the shuffle. What about Dark Night of the Scarecrow? If I can go remake that.
Yeah, while we're talking about guys with bags on their heads, yeah.
I mean, like
And
12
actually,
people.
I think that's actually getting a sequel. Believe it or not, I just saw that that's getting a sequel.
Why would
Yeah,
they not just make it?
yeah, because that's at that point we're talking. You're going to the well of made-for-TV movies. Dark Knight of the Scarecrow is like something a lot of people haven't seen, and
Yeah,
the
it's like
image
12.
though. If you got the VHS, your local VHS store back in the day, and I wonder if people, dudes that are watching or listen to our show from the UK right now, man, they went through hell with their video nasty stuff. It was a witch hunt over there. So like a lot of people
Everything.
didn't get so much stuff. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure we were talking about Evil Dead. Pretty sure Evil Dead was on the video nasties list, and it's kind of crazy how like it was like when you look at that list, it's like Driller Killer and Necromantic and Evil Dead, and you're like, man, one of these things somebody
Ain't
didn't
like
even watch it. Yeah, somebody didn't even watch it, and they just threw it on the list. So
we've got a band, Nail Gun Massacre. We got what now? You know how long it would take to commit a massacre with a nail gun?
Oh, but Nail Gun Massacre is a masterpiece.
That guy's just a spiteful bastard.
I have
with a nail gun.
I've got Nail Gun Massacre autographed by the director. That's my level of Nail Gun Massacre love. So yeah, man, remake is a dangerous thing. And one more thing I do want to ask you while we're on it. Then Paul in the chat says Omen 3 needs remade. Yeah, man, like I'm sure everybody remembers that Omen remake that I watched and thought was pretty good. And I was kind of hoping they'd just do the whole series. They never did,
All right, what do you got to ask me before we run everybody off?
So yeah, what'd you think of? The only one we didn't touch on was Texas Chainsaw at the beginning. Not that we didn't touch on Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey, which is
generation or the Pepsi the Next Generation, whatever the fuck that was.
Yeah, that one is nightmare. But
that one is what it is. Texas Chainsaw the beginning, man. Even when it came out, I'm like, nobody fucking needs this. I think we can all patch together that Leatherface may have not had the greatest upbringing, and we can just leave it at that.
Well, and like again, I'm 100% with you, because what happens is the scary thing about Texas Chainsaw, the original, is that it's scary when it's random. It's scary when it doesn't make any sense. Like it wasn't like Leatherface was a serial killer whose one and only weapon was the chainsaw, and that was his special weapon, and he was the chainsaw guy. There is a mentally handicapped giant brute who's in this house, and people start coming, and he freaks the fuck out, and he doesn't know what to do, so he starts killing them. If his family had been there, it might have been all right. They would have said, just go away, whatever. But like, no. They've stumbled on this thing. He kills somebody. They get themselves into a crazy fucking mess. We don't need this moment when like King Arthur pulls the fucking sword from the stone. That's not what the chainsaw was. It was just a means to an end. So I don't need to see like, oh my God, this is the first time that Leatherface ever, put on the mask. It's clear he's been cutting people's faces off when these kids get there, but it's not because he's the chainsaw guy. Like, it's not his Superman cape. This is just what he does. He's got issues.
He's a terrible animal at best.
Yeah. And people try in horror, the remake, like they did it in the Friday the 13th remake. We've got to have that moment when he finds the mask and it becomes his iconic. Dude, watch Friday the 13th 3. He just takes it from Shelley, he just walks out in it. Yeah.
Shelley's got shit for brains, as we all know.
Yeah.
That's what the thing I didn't like about Rob Zombie's remake of Halloween is that he spends the first half hour going, see, this is why it's much more terrifying if he's a good kid from a good home and one day he just fucking snaps and knifes his sister. Yeah. That's infinitely more terrifying, because then he goes catatonic. If he has a motive, then you're like, this is fucking boring. Yeah, it's predictable. I can see where it's going. But yeah, it's the old thing where the more you show me about the thing that I'm afraid of, I'm no longer afraid of it. Yeah, we can all make the leap that Leatherface didn't have a bunch of good Christmases as a kid. We don't need a whole fucking movie about it.
Yeah, and I saw that in the theater, and my friend that I watched it with at the time, when they had the scenes of Dr. Loomis sort of doing his like therapy session with Michael when he was a kid, and Michael was like talking and he was kind of normal. My friend just looked over at me and he never spoke a word after that night. And I was like, yeah, this is not the same, man. But
Yeah.
And I even go into that, say that, having liked the Halloween remake, but my thing was I liked that early part of it more than I liked the end, because as soon as I connected that kid to Michael Myers, it lost all its magic. You're right. Yeah. It's like, oh man.
Once you have an origin and it's not just chaos, it's less interesting and it's less terrifying, And I know Rob Zombie he based his Halloween off of the Manson family murders and the trial and the guy who wrote the book after the murders. That's who he patterned Loomis after in his movies. And it just becomes so much less interesting when he was a straight A student, and then one day he just fucking snapped. And he showed no signs, and he went off his rocker and murdered his sister, and he's been locked up forever. Now he got out, and Lord knows what he's going to do.
And don't you personally think that Loomis is more interesting as a Captain Ahab who, he wants to know, he wants so badly to figure out the why behind this, because it's what he does, versus an opportunistic book writing kind of like con man. Like you needed that character who's out here, like, it was Loomis's hang up, like why, and that's again fed into this idea that there is no why, and that's what's fucking scary.
That's what's keeping Loomis up at night. He's trying to find the answer, and there is no answer. It's just he's done. He's gone. He is a void who is going to impose whatever will happens to be inhabiting the vessel at that moment. Infinitely more terrifying than he had a stepfather and a bad childhood. Yeah, I could have figured that out. I could have put two and two together. It's
I was talking to a psychiatrist at one point about someone, and it was real interesting. The psychiatrist said to me, he goes, he's like, sometimes we can do all the research and we can, delve into every corner of everything. He's like, but sometimes, man, it's like, there's just something in the wiring diagram that we don't know where it is, but there's just something in there where it's crossed, and like, so it's not like this is like it's this fictional thing, but there is something scary about that when you don't get a why. Something scary and frustrating. And the whole idea with Halloween was like, watching, and I don't know if this was how it was intended, because a lot of people took over, but watching Loomis's journey from getting to the place where he was like, no, Michael Myers is evil. And that's scary, because you've got a man of science, Dr. Loomis, because we don't really see him as Dr. We see him as crazy trench coat man, but presumably Dr. Loomis has spent his whole life understanding the why. And when he comes to the conclusion that Michael Myers is evil, and he shot him 6 times and he still got up, that's real scary, versus we know Michael Myers has a bad childhood, and we know why, and now he's big and he's scary.
Every year when I do my march through all the Halloweens, we get to Halloween 2, the original Halloween 2, and Loomis goes, I shot him 6 times. Motherfucker, you shot him 7. You got a magic revolver. If you count those shots he fires off, it's 7. So he's got a magic revolver that has a 7th chamber. You're full. Every year I go, you're full of shit. You shot him 7 times.
Oh God, you ruined this for me.
It's so much more terrifying when Loomis comes to the conclusion that, oh shit, this is just a vessel of wrath and it's not going to stop and it needs to be killed, but we can't kill it. When that's so much more terrifying than, oh yeah, well, he had a bad family life, so he's just a giant dick. Yeah.
Yeah, man,
Without
it's crazy.
without reason is always more terrifying. I mean, Jason, he's a territorial animal.
Yeah.
That's terrifying. He's not killing because, this, that, and the other. He just stay out of my fucking woods. That's his kryptonite. Don't go in the woods. I'll
You
fucking do
ever
it.
you ever see the movie Final Exam?
I think that's the one
So
that had the skeleton and the graduation cap and gown on the cover. Or was that?
no, that was Slaughter High, I believe.
Oh yeah,
Um,
you're right. You're right. So no, I
so
haven't seen Final Exam.
so I'll give you a quick recap. Spoiler alert for anybody that's never watched
The
Final
three
Exam.
people still listening.
Yeah, yeah. So Final Exam, it's just like almost like a Halloween clone, kind of, but it's more like, I want to say it's like 86, 88. I don't remember, but it's in the middle of that slasher cycle when everybody was, having their mask and their weapon and stuff. And so the killer is like just very basic man in green jacket with knife.
So he's the prowler without being that interesting.
Yeah, the non-interesting prowler. But here's the thing that I will, and I'll be honest.
Better.
I watched Final Exam and I was like, what a shitty movie, and of course, like I was like, he didn't even have a cool look. But I will give this to Final Exam. Like, this guy's killing people and he's, co-ed murders kind of shit. And at the end, like, I think they kill him. I don't even remember, but I remember the line where somebody and like one of the main characters goes like, who was that? Like, why was he doing that? And the person's like, she's just some guy, man. Like, who fucking knows? And like, looking back on it, I'm like, yeah, that was a pretty good ending, because they're just like, oh yeah, he's not connected to any of this. He's just a fucking murderer. He's just crazy.
There's no backstory. He's just cutting people up left, right, and center.
Yeah, and like so you mentioned the Prowler, and I mean, that's one of the great slashers of all time. But at the end of the day, he's just bummed out because he got turned down for a date. Whereas Michael Myers has no reason. They gave him a reason later.
Yeah, once you got the family thing in there, it gets real murky. But I like it a lot more when he's just psychosis with a knife.
Yeah, it's cool, man. But they try to explain it away, and in this movie, going back all the way back around to our Leatherface discussion, like when we were talking to our friend George, what he was like, I thought it was cool how, when his mom died, he put on his mom's face and went out for revenge. And I was like, it doesn't work though, because if he's put, because there was this whole idea back in the day that Leatherface has no personality himself. So the mask he puts on becomes his personality. That's why when he's the pretty lady, he's putting on his makeup and he's got the killing mask. And here's the deal. The kid's mom, if that was his mom or his adopted, her whole thing was, she's hiding him up there because she's keeping him from being that guy. Don't hurt anybody, Jonah or whatever his name was, she doesn't want him to kill. So if he's taking on her personality, he's not going to do the killing, so like, yeah. There was like a lot of stuff where I think they were trying to like show that he's like grieving, and that would have worked. But in the third act, all of a sudden he's just a fucking mindless killer shark, and they undid any connection we have to Leatherface is almost like a tragic character. Yeah. They just try to make stuff too big and too meaningful in some of these movies when you don't always need a reason.
There's a scene in the new Texas Chainsaw that is the funniest unintentionally funny scene I've ever fucking seen. It's after the van crash and he's out there. There's that shot of the sunflowers. And all of a sudden, his fucking head pops up like a whack-a-mole. I started laughing so hard. Yeah. I know that wasn't supposed to be funny, but my God, that was hilarious.
And you get the feeling that the director is like, we're going for the dichotomy of beauty versus, horror. And it's like, no, man, it didn't work.
Popped up and went, ooh. I was actually talking to our friends Mark and Natalie about this movie. And I said, that is the funniest, unintentionally funny scene ever. And Natalie said, oh, they had to know. And I said, ma'am, Glenn Danzig made an entire movie that he thought was so scary and violent. And what he actually made was the most unintentionally funny comedy that's ever been made. So
yeah.
Sometimes they don't know.
Yo, what did you think about, like, so the ending, like, okay, so they do the Carrie ending. Spoiler alert. No one's listening. They do the Carrie ending
We had to
where,
write
we're in the car and like we're all like we're driving for a good 40 seconds. We're headed home, and then Leatherface grabs the girl, chops her head off, and like it's like, yeah, I hated that girl and I wanted to see that girl die. Yes, but here's the thing: you have to think, okay, Leatherface, 75 years old. That car is. I'm gonna do a math problem. If a car is traveling 40 miles per hour on autopilot, and Leatherface is 75 years old and had a limp at the end of the fucking movie, how fast does Leatherface have to run to catch up to the car to jump in and grab the girl and cut her head off? Like, he was running down the street somewhere, and that's again. It's great that this was their big ending, but if you really dissect it for 2 seconds, which nobody should be dissecting this movie or any horror movie for 2 seconds, but like it doesn't make sense and it's dumb. Just like Sally Hardesty, the old vengeance-filled butcher Sally Hardesty gets bisected, chainsaw through her midsection, lifted up in the air, but is still alive to shoot at Leatherface. And it's like, man, what are we doing here? Are we going like Michael Bay explosions version of a horror movie, or are we going like, visceral, every death means something, Leatherface is grieving over his mother? Because there's two different movies right there and they don't match
That's
up.
the big problem. They did the same thing that Halloween Kills did. Like, that movie shifts tone wildly from scene to scene.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is supposed to be scary, and now you got Anthony Michael Hall going, "Evil dies tonight." Like, am I going to take this seriously or point and laugh at it? You guys got to make up your mind. You can't flip-flop tone like that, because then nobody's taking anything seriously.
Yeah, and it's so weird, man, because like I know there's a discrepancy there where I watched that movie and I was like, because I hated Halloween, the remake. I hated it. And then I watched that ready to just fucking hate it. And I was like, yo, that was gory, violent, superhuman Michael Myers, dumb fun. But I think my issue was it started at gory, violent, superhuman Michael Myers at the beginning of that movie, and it went with it. Whereas Leatherface, it was two different movies, man. And whatever this was called.
It swapped tones left, right, and center, and it really couldn't make up its mind what it wanted to be. So I just laughed at it the whole time. And like I said, props to them for doing practical effects. That's great. It not the worst Texas Chainsaw, definitely not the best.
The worst one is Leatherface, not part 3, but the weird one where like you spend a whole movie with a kid whose body type is Leatherface, and then he ends up being the bait and switch, and it's the handsome kid at the end. Have you seen that one, Leatherface?
Where does that one fall in the chronology of all this?
It was something that was like direct-to-video. It was it's in continuity, but it gives you hang out with, spoiler alert, don't ever watch it. It's fucking terrible. You hang out with Leatherface as a normal person, as a handsome guy with a girlfriend and a love interest and a best friend. And then at the end of the movie, he gets his face messed up and picks up a chainsaw, and you're supposed to believe that this is Leatherface. It is the worst in the series. It is a misguided, terrible hack job of a movie. It's terrible, and it's probably for me the reason why this is a little bit higher on the list. There's a couple more, maybe, like I'd say like this and maybe like Next Generation are above Leatherface, but this one's pretty
not by much.
Dude, it's a struggle out here. And hey, welcome to the first episode of Splatterwave.
We finally did it. We just tacked it onto this. So if anybody's still listening, thanks. We haven't done that in a while, where we just went off on a tangent. But that was fun.
Yeah. Thanks for coming to our 2-hour-long weekly Dredd and Leatherface episode.
Symposium.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So I guess that leaves us with one thing to say, my friend.
I'll let you take it today.
Oh, I'm going to take it. I'm going to take that wiener.